Well, hello and welcome to the Improver Group. This is a video podcast today and one of the people that has impacted my life in a very significant way, unlike very few others, Jeremie Kubicek. Thank you, Jeremie, for joining us today. Incredibly excited to have you on.
Justin, if you're one of the most positive, encouraging people on the planet, how easy is this for me to be with you right now? So super excited.
Yeah, man. And you came and you were one of our keynote speakers at a leadership event we had a couple of months ago. And I just can't believe how fast time flies. But if you guys are out there, and I'm just going to go straight into the pitch here, if you are looking for a keynote speaker or someone to come and encourage your group, I'm just going to tell you, Jeremie was fantastic for ours. And of course, I'm partnered with Giant Worldwide, and so I get a lot of exposure to him and content. But it's just always fantastic, and just can't wait to dive into the newest thing you guys have rolled out over at Giant, you and your friend Steve. It's the communication code. It's over my shoulder, but it's also right here. I got several copies of this book, and so just go ahead. A lot of people know who you are, but just kind of launch into a little bit about you and then transition to the communication code and how that ties in with who you are and what you're trying to do.
Yeah, so I have been in the leadership world for decades. We used to own John Maxwell's assets and the Catalyst conferences, LeaderCast, all these big events. And I just got so passionate about 10 years ago on 21st century learning and how do adults learn in today's world. And what I found is very, very different than the past. It's visual tools, it's common language, it's giving people the chance to learn a tool very quickly, draw it on a cocktail napkin, and teach it to somebody else. And so, and all be around relationships. And that's really what Steve Cocker and I do. We built a business on relational intelligence and then training people like you and partnering with people like you to do relational intelligence. And I think it's a missing component, Justin, because a lot of people want what's the leadership jargon? And I can tell you, leaders, pastors, people who know it all, and no one wants to be around them. And I'm like, yeah, how's that working for you? And what happens, they don't know their personality very well, and they don't know how emotional intelligence fits in, and they don't know how hard skills fit in. So collectively, that's relational intelligence. It's like they haven't put it all together. And that's what I'm committed to. I'm committed to helping people unlock, unleash, and learn how to help people become healthy and multiply.
Okay, man, there's so much goodness. And when you talk about the cocktail napkin tools, just so the people who, if you've never seen this is the Giant toolkit. These are like one-page tools that you really can sketch a lot of this stuff off just like on an index card. But there's a lot of them, but even just a handful of these can be life-changing for people. So tell us about the newest tool that you guys, and actually it's not that so much a new tool as much as a new book on a tool.
It's the latest book. Yeah, the tool we've been using for like 7-8 years. Yeah, and it actually came out of frustration. All of our tools, people always ask, where did you come up with these tools? And they're hacks that we've tried to solve our own issues. Like, why did I get mad at Steve? Why did I get mad at my wife? Why is she mad at how did that? And we create these tools that solve the issue and in such a profound way, but they're simple enough for a 13-year-old to get. But that's how they scale. So this tool, and for those listening, this is a really, really fun one. It's called the communication code. And here's the big idea. Let's say between Justin communicates something to me. He transmits something to me. What we realized was every transmission has an expectation attached to it. Meaning, when you transmit something, you're expecting something. Hey, bring me if I'm specific, hey, bring me the remote control. Well, I obviously want you to bring me the remote control. It's very clear. But if I ask the question, like, did you get the report out? Or are we close to the such and such? There's an expectation attached to it. So what happens with that expectation is there's a code word that unlocks that expectation, that makes it very, very clear of what the other person is expecting. And what we've noticed in life and business and just work in general is that there are so many missed expectations because oftentimes people don't share the expectations they have. or they share a transmission, but they kind of make it cryptic. The other person doesn't get it right, and then the person crosses their arms, backs away, and like, man, they just don't get it, do they? Like, well, maybe, probably not, but it could help them out. And or the other side, it's like, what, I critique, or if I'm a person who critiques all the time, I'm doing the same thing every time to the person, on the other side of me. I don't get it, or the person doesn't get it. So the idea is we found through our own failure, we found there was 5 distinct communication code words. And if you figure out those code words, then you can unlock the other person. You can actually unlock the relationship. You can connect with them, and the chances of your communication and relationship thriving go up compared to when they aren't. So that's it. You wanna share what they are, the 5?
Yeah, we'd love to hear that. And as you get ready to share these 5 C's, I'd like to kind of remind our people who are going through the leadership training, they know about the intentional versus accidental. And that's what I hear so much of what you're saying here is like, when you hear these 5 C's, it's not going to necessarily be earth shattering, like, oh, I didn't know that that's the way conversations could be categorized, but it's more about the principle of being intentional and on the same page. So yeah, talk to us about being intentional with these 5 C's.
Yeah. So the 5 communication code words, they are celebration, celebrate, to care, to collaborate, to celebrate, to care, to clarify, to collaborate, or critique. Those are the 5. So again, what do I mean by those 5? Well, what it means is, if I'm transmitting something to Justin, and let's say I just had a really great meeting, and I just want to, hey, I just want to celebrate, man. I had a big meeting. I just want to, let's just hang. Let's talk about it. Let's high five. 2 minutes, 5 minutes. It's not a parade. I just need a little bit of celebration. But let's say I celebrated, and all of a sudden Justin starts critiquing the celebration. And he's like, well, why did you do it that way? Why didn't you do it? I didn't think I thought you said we were going to. And that's what happened with Steve and I. That's the very thing that took place that caused the whole communication code book. It was that I was celebrating a win, and he started critiquing it, thinking he was collaborating. So we were so frustrated with one another, and I was frustrated with him, and then he was frustrated. And I was like, dude, you always do this. Every time I want to celebrate, you start critiquing. And he's like, well, why didn't you tell me you wanted to celebrate? And I'm like, well, why didn't you just know I wanted to celebrate? It was obvious. But it wasn't to him. And so therefore we came up with these code words. So here's what it typically looks like. Depending on, let's say I'm coming to you, Justin, with something that is a little bit more intimate, a little bit more personal. I'm like, man, I'm really, really mad. I'm frustrated right now. And I just need you to care. And I need you to clarify what you hear. But that's it. I'm not looking for any collaboration. I don't need any critique right now, honestly. I just need care. And if I give you those words, that is your cue. You would know what to do, right? So then if you understand, got it. Don't offer collaboration or critique. This is not the time for that. It's listen to my friend and then clarify. So I hear you saying this. Is that how you're feeling? Yeah, exactly. Man, I'm so sorry, dude. I wish it was different. What can I do to help? Nothing. I just need you to listen. Awesome. Then you connected with me. Our communication goes up. Our relationship gets stronger because I can count on you as a friend. You provided care and clarity where I needed it without trying to solve me, fix it, or to do anything to make it better, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happens. So many people miss each other because they're missing expectations with one another. And they don't have the words, the code words to do it. And that's what the communication code does.
Yeah. I know a lot of the things we discuss we kind of almost apply it into work scenarios because it is professional leadership and all that, but it's so personal as well. And the thing that went to my mind was I've been married over 15 years now, and like I needed this in premarital counseling so that whenever my wife comes in and says, here's this problem, I want to go into the critique and collaborate modes. And those are bad, collaborate. Okay, let's try to make it better, find a solution. But the bad problem is when I go into critique, especially, and all she wanted was care. And I mean, when you get care and critique backwards, things are going
There's
sideways
problems.
fast.
Yeah. And here's the thing, if you, like in that scenario, if you do care really well over a period of time, you build up enough capital with your spouse or another person, they'll let you help them collaborate in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But if you constantly critique first, their walls are up. They already know what you're going to say, so they don't bring things to you. They then go to someone else, and that's where problems happens in marriage. Is now they start going to another source to get what their needs met. And then my husband, he doesn't understand. You know him. He just ... And then the clueless guy, what? What's the deal? Why can't they, And it's because they haven't learned anything but critique, which is really fascinating. For those who do critique first, I always ask them, what's the one code word that you want the most? Do you want critique first? And they're like, no, never. But you provide it first, but you don't want it first.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an interesting dynamic, right? So that's the beauty of the communication code.
I love it. Our tagline here at Improver Group is good and getting better. And part of the reason we came up with that is because we do try to approach situation. Let's always celebrate the good first before we try to collaborate. And so we didn't have the C's when we got in there, but it's like, oh man, we're on the right page, with this. But so when we think about these 5 C's, though, is the premise of the book that like all conversations fall in? Was this meant to be a comprehensive view of all the categories of conversations, or how did you arrive at just 5, or are there more? Or, how do we think about this? So
I mean, we've obviously searched all types of options over the last 7-8 years, but we just found in general, it's about expectations. And I'm expecting you to declare. I'm expecting collaboration. I'm expecting celebration. There's an expectation attached to it. It's all it is. And all these are code words that unlock the rest of the communication. It's almost like transmission. It's trying to get both of the aligned. So you're not grinding gears, but all of a sudden you're like, okay, you need care and I'll give you care. Boom. There we go. Okay. Now we can make progress, right? So that's a little bit of kind of how that rolls. And,
so you would see this as being like probably the 5 key areas where when those things don't happen, things tend to go sideways. So, all of that. So
absolutely. And real quick, Justin,
sure.
too. Now, as you play this out, it can play in lots of ways. So 1-to-1, it's as simple as like, I understand the C's. Let's say you don't understand the C's yet. And I just come to you and go, hey, Justin, man, I've got something I'm super excited about. I want to celebrate a little bit. And then if it doesn't make total sense, clarify, ask me questions. Now I've just given you the code, even if you don't know what all of the options are. So that's one option and one way you can do it. The other way, though, is if you're doing it with a team, and we have a number of teams doing this, they start their team meetings with the communication code. They start with celebrate first. Hey, guys, let's celebrate. What's happened in the last week that's been good? So to your tagline, which I love, good, getting better, what do we need to celebrate? What's making us better, right? Care. Is there anything that anyone needs in our team right now or in the company that we need to be aware of? Yeah, Robert's grandfather passed away, blah, blah, blah. That's a care. Clarity is, okay, what are we doing in our meeting today? Let's clarify. What do we want to accomplish in our meeting today? So that's an opportunity to clarify. Now, collaboration is, all right, let's work on such and such. Now everyone gets to play. By the time you get through it, there's very little critique. There's nothing really that needs to be
Yeah.
critiqued unless it's one-to-one, or like, hey, Justin, if you and I can stay, let's meet. I've got one thought for you, but that's more one-to-one. And now you've built a cultural idea, you know?
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that I know I've done with the tools, and the communication code has been no exception to this, is they're meant to be prescriptive, is my understanding. Like, hey, let's do things the right way. And so if you're intentional instead of accidental, you have a better result. But I've noticed that you can actually use these to kind of autopsy a bad situation as well. And like it gives language for reviewing it. So maybe talk to that idea like, okay, there was an argument or there was conflict and things didn't go well because the communication code wasn't
Yeah.
used ahead of time. How could you use it kind of, post event?
Yeah, totally. Well, man, what happened there? You know, gosh, well, what were they wanting? I didn't even ask them. Huh? Hey, you even pick up the phone. Hey, Tom, man, I was off. What were you expecting today? Were you wanting to celebrate, or were you wanting? What was it? And you give them the code words, and there's an opportunity there. And what you might find is what you're ultimately looking for is what's it like to be on the other side of you consistently.
Yes.
And in the first two chapters of the book, we actually go back to your past. And we're like, if you don't deal with your past, if you're not aware, then and you don't make some amends or changes from the past behavior, you're not going to have success in today or in the future. Because if, for instance, the analogy we gave, if your wife is always expecting you to critique and all of a sudden you start showing care, it's going to take several months for her to believe that's real
Mm-hmm.
because she's already used to your past. So if you get to this, if you read chapter 3, which is the actual communication code, and you're like, oh my goodness, I've been critiquing, haven't I? When I get to you, I critique, and that seems to shut you down. I need to. What is it specific that you want from me? And now this is beautiful, Justin, and for those listening, if you actually create your customized communication code, meaning what are the tendencies two default codes that you want? So, Justin, here's what I'm really wanting from you. I like your collaboration, but sometimes if you clarify first that we're on the same page, that collaboration will go much faster, because sometimes I have to go, no, 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 that's not what I'm talking about. And I have to back you up. Would you clarify first that you really, really got it? And once I know that you got it, then we can collaborate and we can go to town. Cool. Right. And so now I've given you my two custom words I want for you. Might be completely different than me to my spouse or me to Steve, my business partner. And Steve was shocked that we did this with each other. And I said, well, yeah, I'll tell you exactly what I want from you. Exactly. Every time. Would you please clarify first that you hear me? Because oftentimes you'll go to critique and it's like, that's not what I'm saying at all. You know, so
Yeah.
clarify. And I know sometimes I'm a creative second voice, so my creative is really high. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm seeing, but I need you to help me get it out and clarify. But once you do, the second thing is, man, I just need care. And he's like, care, really? You know, that's not a normal thing. But what I realized with Steve is, because he lives in London and, we're across the pond from one another, then I just need to know relationally we're on the same page. So I said, so ask me how my football teams are going. Ask me about my kids and what am I excited about right now? What book have I read that's interesting? Can we have third gear relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Just buddy relationship, and not all transaction. Because if I feel transactional, if I feel your accidental transaction with critique, then it's going to
Mm-hmm.
build up walls of animosity and frustration. And it did actually over COVID. It was really frustrating, really hard. So we had to work through that. And now he gave me what his code was, which was very interesting, very similar. It was clarify and then collaborate. And he wants to play more and collaborate more. I'm like, let's go. So it was a really great way to go. I'm giving you the code words
Yeah.
that I want in a consistent, and I'm customizing exactly what I would love. And some people who are listening were like, well, what if those are irrational from the other person? It's like, well, test it out first and see.
Yeah.
If someone's saying, I always want celebration, celebrate me even when I'm doing the dumbest things, I get it. That's not necessarily, there's some discernment there.
Yes, you got to do
But you
that.
might want to use some care or clarification,
Hmm.
not critique.
Yeah. Well, if you have time for one more question, I know you've got a call
Yeah, let's
coming up.
go.
First, I want to give our listeners and our viewers a couple of homework items, a couple of tasks to do. One, go to Amazon, or where else can they get the book if they want a copy?
Yeah,
Amazon's the
Amazon's the
best.
best. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so go to Amazon, grab the book based on which platform you're viewing this on. We'll drop the link there. The second one is there's actually an assessment that Giant has on this. And so we'll drop you the link. That way you can complete that assessment, and it'll kind of let you know where you fall on this. And as you read the book, it'll be very prescriptive and helping you. But the last question I have for you is really just kind of an open-ended. Encourage our viewers and listeners on this idea of relational intelligence, and how do guides like me and Giant partner with them in this,
Yep.
and just kind of give a last little closing push there.
For sure. So think about this for a minute. Relational intelligence. You start with yourself. It's individual insight. Are you aware? Are you self? Do you see that you have broccoli in your teeth? And that journey is actually really hard for some people because they just want to ignore it. But when you really dive in, and especially with a culture of liberation that we teach at Giant, which is high support and high challenge, then you can begin to see your tendencies and your patterns and make changes in your behavior. So once you become more like I've found 32 tendencies I have in myself, and I've been working on. Yep, yep, you do that, Jeremy, when you're tired. Here's what you tend to do. Here's the consequences of it. Let's work on the pattern change. Let's work on changing the action. Even though I will always have that tendency, I've changed the action. So what we do is we give you language and a process. We give you tools. We call them mirrors, the opportunity to see broccoli in your teeth. And we give you lenses, which are like glasses. You can see yourself and see other people. So mirrors and lenses start working together. And then eventually you get into this group dynamic, which is what's it like to work on the other side of me, and how's my team going if you're a team leader or in a team, and then how do we begin to perform at higher levels? Because ultimately what Giant does is we help teams and organizations perform at higher levels by building their people, making them more relationally intelligent. So we use the analogy of a Sherpa on Mount Everest, that we help people climb while we're climbing. And so Justin is a good example. He's a perfect Sherpa. He's a guy that would come alongside and help you. So if you're a team leader of a small team, let's say you're a small team, you don't have a big budget, you don't have a lot of time, let Justin come in and do some toolkit sessions with you. Let him drop some of these lenses and mirrors in, let you try it on and see it. And if you're wanting coaching, or either a group coaching or an individual coaching, our work takes people to heights they never thought they could get to, and they become secure, not insecure. And it's this journey of secure, confident humility, right? So that's what I would do is, trust the programs that Justin is delivering and doing, and watch your teams move from a 68 average to an 85, 90 average. And when you do, you're going to see turnover go down. You're going to see your productivity go up. So that's what we do. And so I hope that was helpful, Justin.
Yeah. Amazing, man. Thank you so much for that, guys. Like I said, the links will be in the description here below. And Jeremie, thanks so much for this. Guys, go out and get a copy of the book. Make sure to purchase it soon. Give it as gifts on it. Give it to your team. And the biggest thing is apply the principles in it. It's not just about a book. It's not just about learning something new, but it's about implementing this so that you can have stronger communication and better relationships. And, our company's called The Improver. And we think if you work on yourself, you grow, you're going to make the world better. And so the world will be a better place if you guys will get the book and unlock your relationships through better communication. So thanks so much, Jeremie. Thanks, Giant. And we'll see you all again soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.